Hello, good evening. Thanks for being with us tonight. I'm Blake Berman. This is The Hill on News Nation. You about to hit the road, maybe take to the skies? We're about to show you why this is a Labor Day weekend with some major change. Why that package in your mail or at your doorstep could now come with a much different price tag. Someone who is not hitting the brakes, that guy right there, Gavin Newsom, the California governor. Is he having a moment? I'll show you the new trend for the governor. Chris Steyerwalt here with me as well to break it all down. Also tonight, where President Trump will drive his message from here. His administration saying, get used to the National Guard. And 20 years ago, on this very day, Hurricane Katrina became one of the worst natural disasters in the history of this country. The commander who led the turnaround is with us tonight. But first tonight, here from the Hill, a live look right now. All across this country, New York, there, left side of your screen, you can see LAX. There on the right side of your screen, as we have finally, thank goodness, made it to the three-day Labor Day weekend. A live look as well at Midway Airport. No, I don't know that that's an airport. I hope not, because there's a lot of water there. Chicago, though, a live look. TSA is expecting record air travel this weekend. And as you head out and make the best of your time at home, whatever it might be, a new look today at the current bang for your buck. First, some relief at the pump. This is some good news here. Gallon of regular unleaded running somewhere around $3.15 this holiday weekend, according to Gas Buddy. That is the lowest level since 2020, something the Trump administration is actively pointing to tonight. But a new read on inflation continuing to raise questions today about tariffs. The government reporting today that the Federal Reserve's preferred inflation measure climbed up to 2.6%. And when you don't include fuel and food, that's known as the core component, 2.9%. This right here is the highest reading since February, before tariffs went into play. And tonight, a new change involving the next package that might show up at your doorstep. The Trump administration today ending a long-standing shipping rule that allowed low-value packages up to $800 to enter into the country without tariffs. It's known as de minimis. That's the official term. The rule applied to more than, get this, 90% of all packages arriving in the United States, including shipments from low-cost retailers like Temu and Shein overseas, or some shipments you might get from companies here at home, Amazon, Etsy, you name it. If it's under $800, it's now subject to tariffs. Last year alone, this applied to some 1.36 billion shipments in this country with a declared value of about $65 billion. Chris Steyerwalt here with me in a moment, but we begin tonight with our Kelly Meyer and with some breaking news that the White House is most definitely paying attention to tonight, Kelly. We're learning of this new court ruling as it relates to the president's tariffs. It's a ruling the White House didn't want, and it feels like this is headed to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, took the words right out of my mouth, Blake, and I just ran back to see if we have any reaction just yet out of the White House, and we don't just yet, but you can certainly expect it. Keep an eye on True Social and keep refreshing that, as well as from other members of this administration pushing back on this, as this U.S. Appeals Court here in the Federal Circuit in Washington, D.C. said that his tariffs are illegal, and that the president had no legal right to impose his sweeping tariffs that he set out back in April on his so-called Liberation Day, as well as those tariffs that he imposed on Canada, Mexico, and China for fentanyl. Right now, though, I think this is the important part. They left them in place until October 14th, through October 14th, to give the Trump administration a chance to file an appeal with the U.S. Supreme Court. So that's the hint that this could go all the way up to the highest court in the land. It's also important to note that this does not impact those steel and aluminum tariffs. But we know that President Trump really tried to justify the use of imposing these sweeping tariffs by saying that there was a national emergency. He keeps saying that he wanted to make sure he took care of the debt and made sure that other countries were paying their fair share. We kept hearing that from him here at the White House. He used the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to address this, saying that this was a national emergency. That's how they're going to push back on this. But we are waiting to see just exactly how the White House is going to respond to this, and we can't expect them to push back and appeal this, potentially taking it again all the way to the Supreme Court, Blake.
It is the signature economic staple, I guess you could say, of President Trump's second term, and tonight its future very much in the hands, it appears, of the court system. Kelly Meyer, live tonight at the White House. Kelly, thank you. With me now, Chris Stirewalt, host of The Hill Sunday, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute as well. Hello, sir.
Heck yeah.
Supreme Court might be saying, oh, yeah, like they are going to be busy, man.
So the Supreme Court gave the president gave the presidency a series of wins on executive privilege and on striking down local federal judges who were trying to put in nationwide injunctions. So it was a nice spring and summer for the administration.
Okay.
But now we have the larger questions that have now ripened. And now this question has ripened. Can the president declare a state of emergency on the taxes that Americans pay on imported goods and set rates at any level he wants? There's no reading of anything that says that he can do that. And if you hear what the administration argued and what Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, has said about this, it would be embarrassing for the United States diplomatically if the law was enforced. So these should be allowed to stand because I don't think those are the kind of arguments that persuade the Supreme Court.
You know this, I know this, but there's Section 232 and 301 investigations. The point is there's a mechanism for which administrations can use and go down that path, and at the end they say, aha, we have found this, and that is why we're doing tariffs.
Right.
The president hasn't done that yet on these wide sprawling tariffs, and that's really the issue that what the court has taken.
And he can't because what he wants to do is do these negotiations where he's making it like he's making a real estate deal, right? So he goes to this country and says, I want you to buy this, I want you to give this, and all of these other unrelated things, because he looks at each of these as like he was putting up a condo building somewhere. And that's not how the law works, and that's not how this stuff goes. You can declare a trade emergency.
Right.
And you can say, we have a crisis with this country and we've got to do something. But it can't just be, and they've promised to buy a bunch of diatomaceous earth from Nebraska or something. That just doesn't work that way.
Gas prices lower, rock and roll, we love it. Inflation slowly ticking up higher with all the tariffs that are now starting to feel their way through the economy. What does the White House need to be watching tonight?
The good news about a slowing economy is that energy gets cheaper. That's always the silver lining. Berman means business. Who am I talking to?
Is it that or production and all the sorts of like a lot of this right now? The administration wants rates lower. I don't know anyone who could say the sky is falling and you believe him, or everything is great and you believe him. It feels like it's shoulder shrug emoji right now.
Nor is there a wheel on the wall at the Federal Reserve Bank where the Jerome Powell can turn up the economy or turn down the economy. Right. Moving the overnight rate by 1/4 of a point at the Federal Reserve is not going to give us a recession. It's not going to give us a booming economy.
Right.
The economy is made up of 330 million Americans doing 330 million different things, and our ability in Washington, D.C. to shape that is limited.
It seems like the court will have its say, the high court
have a
here.
big October.
Yeah. All right, Chris Stirewalt with me throughout the hour here. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. All right, and as we mentioned earlier, a new tariff rule, you can essentially call it that, now in place, could cause prices, we'll see what happens, to rise on everyday goods. A shipping rule expires today that allowed packages of $800 or less to move into the country tariff-free. It applied to more than 90% of the packages arriving at U.S. ports. President Trump ended the exemption last month with an executive order saying the rule has allowed bad actors to avoid tariffs or get illegal substances into the country, but it could have widespread impact on the prices of everyday goods. For example, look here. This comes from the company Flavor Cloud, which tracks a lot of this stuff. It projects that a stroller from China that used to cost $400 could now cost $544. A knife set from Japan, you see there, going up. Similar story with other products from around the globe. Again, the projections here, we'll see what happens. Now, in the wake of the change, some countries are now suspending shipments into the U.S. With me now, Craig Fuller, founder and CEO of FreightWaves. That is a leading supply chain and intelligence company. Craig, good on you for being with us on this Friday night into Labor Day. I'm going to get home tonight. I'm going to walk through the front door. There's probably going to be like 3, 4, or 5 packages they're waiting for me. And I guess the question is, if they're under $800, is the cost going up?
Well, it depends on where it comes from. So this is all about products that originate from outside the United States that are sent to you individually. So some of the sort of misunderstanding of this does not include products that perhaps you're buying at Walmart or even on Amazon.
Right.
As long as that product originates in the United States, even if it came in on a bulk container, it's not going to, the de minimis element doesn't impact that. What it actually is intended to do is stop the flow of particularly e-commerce goods to consumers that come from overseas that bypass U.S. retailers is really the idea. Now, there are some exceptions to this. As you mentioned, Amazon and Etsy that have these third-party marketplaces may be representing Chinese manufacturers and Chinese wholesalers that are selling to American consumers. Say what you want about Trump's tariffs and trade policy, and there's a lot of different opinions, and rightfully so in many cases. This is one rule that I think is the administration is absolutely justified, because if you think about the fact that oftentimes these Chinese e-commerce companies were competing against American retailers that have physical brick and mortar and employ U.S. Employees, were completely bypassing all of these parties. So to me,
how are the companies going to get around this? Because you know they're going to try.
Well, they've been building physical warehouses and distributions in the United States. And so what they were
I guess
doing—
that's the argument, right, is that it brings back domestic manufacturing in theory.
It brings back domestic sourcing. So it may not even bring back— I mean, Walmart, when they're shipping things into the U.S., they're not shipping individual packages. They're shipping it in big containers. It goes into a distribution center, and then they basically offload those products and send to your house. That is employing U.S. Employees, U.S. people that are handling that work. And what's happening with the de minimis element is that we're bypassing these human networks in the United States and bypassing American retailers.
Craig Fuller, appreciate the time on this Friday. Thanks for the breakdown and explaining it. We'll catch you again soon.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. All right, still to come tonight here on The Hill. How about this? It's almost wild to think about. 20 years ago to the day since Hurricane Katrina ripped through the Gulf Coast. You know the images. They have been seared in our memory for decades now. Other side of the break, the retired General Russell Honore, who was the one who jumped in when the help was needed the most, with us tonight here on The Hill.
We have chaos in every big city in California.
That, of course, Antonio Villaraigosa, the former mayor of LA. He's running for governor of California. So what does he think about what Gavin Newsom is up to? When The Hill returns. All right, welcome back. A live look right now. Bourbon Street there in New Orleans, heading into this Labor Day weekend, certainly preparing for a crowd as the holiday weekend gets underway. But this day also marks a somber moment for that part of town and across that state. 20 years ago today, New Orleans and much of the Gulf Coast region devastated by Hurricane Katrina. Katrina lives in infamy for the deadly flooding after the levees broke in that town, submerging most of the city, killing almost 1,400 people. Katrina, the most expensive hurricane the U.S. has ever seen as well. Tonight on News Nation, we will hear the untold stories of courage, chaos, and community resilience in the face of that natural disaster. Here's a preview of the special, The Hurricane Katrina Tapes, airing at 10 o'clock Eastern here on News Nation.
Images of anarchy, a city overrun by looters. They're smashing and grabbing, the outnumbered police officers unable or unwilling to stop them.
You stealing or what?
No, we're looting.
You looting?
That's what they call it.
Is that survival food?
Yeah.
You looting?
Yeah, I am. Why y'all filming
For
me?
them, they say it's the survival of the fittest.
If you go back into the memory bank, you might remember that President Bush tapped that man right there, retired Lieutenant General Russell Honore, to oversee the recovery efforts. The city's mayor later called him a, quote, John Wayne dude, for his strong, blunt leadership style and his work coordinating the relief efforts were widely praised. And with us tonight here on the Hill, I am honored to say, former commander of the Joint Task Force for Hurricane Katrina, Lieutenant General Russell Honore. Sir, it is so nice to have you. Nice to see you. Hope everything's going well with you. 20 years later since Katrina, and as I sit here and see you on our screen tonight, I wonder just what goes through your mind at this point.
Well, we've done a lot of work since Katrina in the city of New Orleans and surrounding area, put the flood protection system in. But it's a reminder that on any given day, Mother Nature can break anything built by man. And we built a protection system to hold up to a Category 3 storm impacts. But we could get a Category 4 storm impact, and the levees could overtop again. And to remind everybody the importance of evacuation. So when the time comes to evacuate, you have to evacuate, and don't leave anybody on your street. Take your neighbors with you if they need a ride, because the government ain't good enough to evacuate everybody.
It makes me wonder, sir, if New Orleans would be ready again. I mean, I grew up in South Florida. I grew up in Miami. I remember as a kid Hurricane Andrew, right, which was the worst until Katrina. And you always try to get better and learn, and there are lessons learned. But as I hear you say it, do you think New Orleans might be ready? Because you and I both know this. There are going to be more storms, and that's just the reality.
Yes, I think throughout the hurricane zone, we have a challenge. In the Southeastern Conference, where a lot of the storms come, I think we spend more time getting ready for football season than we do hurricane season. While some of those skills are transferable on how you do a tailgate and how you survive a hurricane, they're not necessarily transferable. So we've got to get people excited and make sure they're prepared for what will be a tough hurricane season when they start coming, and they got to be prepared to evacuate. That is the biggest thing we can do when storms come, is get people evacuated and not leave anybody behind.
What are the lessons learned, and then what are the lessons that you wish at this point in time were heeded?
Well, for me, in a real disaster, you lose control. The grid is down, the grid's broke, you can't talk to your people, the roads are closed, the river is closed, the airport's closed. That's what a real disaster is. You do not have control in a real disaster. If you have control in a disaster, then it wasn't a disaster, it was an inconvenience. And this was a disaster, particularly when the levees failed and the city's flooded. Until the levees broke, this looked like what we call a normal hurricane. The levees breaking changed the game, and it overmatched the capacity of the local people to be able to deal with it. And we needed to bring in federal assistance as well as National Guard from other states to come help.
What do you want people to know tonight?
Be prepared. Don't leave anybody behind. Mother Nature can break anything built by man. You build a 30-foot levee and a 35-foot surge come, and New Orleans is flooded again. So when the people say evacuate, make sure you evacuate. And I'm concerned a little bit about the thinning out of FEMA and the thinning of our weather service, because those services give people early warning and they prepare to come in and respond once the storm's over with. And I hope we put a break on that, and the president restore FEMA, fix it, put it under the White House, take it out of DHS, and he commands FEMA through a cabinet. That's what I think ought to happen, because recovery is a living hell, and he should be able to fix recovery.
It's interesting. It's not the first time we've heard that. We've had Michael Brown, who I know you know the name. He's made that recommendation. There have actually been Democrats as well who have made the same recommendation as well. We'll see where it all heads. As I mentioned, it's an honor to see you, sir. Retired Lieutenant General Russell Honore with us tonight here on the Hill. Enjoy the weekend.
God bless America.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Programming note, by the way, that powerful hour-long News Nation special as we revisit the devastation of Hurricane Katrina through never-before-seen footage, firsthand accounts from journalists and survivors. The Hurricane Katrina tapes airs tonight, 10 o'clock Eastern, right here on News Nation. But before then, it's still to come, the crime crackdown in the Golden State. Is the California Governor Gavin Newsom taking a page out of President Trump's playbook? Why the polls and the betting markets say, you know what? It just might be working. And as we head into the holiday weekend, was Trump's biggest moment this summer his meeting with Putin something else? Or as he looks forward, are tariffs and what the court just decided going to shape his future? A major ruling. We thought we might head into a weekend with, you know what, just a casual Friday, and they threw us a curveball when we return. All right, welcome back here to The Hill on News Nation. We started the show by telling you that a federal appeals court today ruled that President Trump's tariffs essentially are illegal. You can imagine that this is going to snowball its way all the way over to the Supreme Court. And the president today, actually put that back up for a second. Here was the reaction from President Trump just moments ago. He said, all tariffs are still in effect. Today, a highly partisan appeals court incorrectly said that our tariffs should be removed. But they know the United States will win in the end. If these tariffs ever went away, it would be a total disaster for our country. The news came in. The president reacted. It's just the beginning of this one. We'll stay on it. Meantime, once again, here, a live look at the Golden Gate Bridge out there in the state of California. New polling shows that the governor, Gavin Newsom, his 2028 stock ascending, getting more bullish by the day, you could say. Could it be posts like these, where he's seemingly trying to out-Trump Trump? Vanity Fair cover like that one. The governor is also up in the ante on social media in his efforts to combat the Trump agenda. You see that flag there, or this hat. I can show a bunch of these to you. The governor also appears to be getting more aggressive on another issue, this one with more direct implications for citizens in his state, crime. It has the potential to be a major winner, we'll see, for Newsom, or could it possibly backfire, maybe set him from the rest of the pack on the Democratic side? We'll see. Newsom announcing the deployment of crime-fighting units across his state. Essentially, they'll be assisting local law enforcement with intelligence, investigative work, visibility, and more. Similar efforts have already seen success in places like Oakland and Bakersfield. The governor using the moment to draw a contrast between this move and how President Trump is combating crime with the National Guard.
The community wants to see more, and we are trying to be responsive to the people we serve. As it relates to the president in particular, he's doing things to people, not with people. It's a point of profound and consequential contrast.
Joining me now, former mayor of Los Angeles, running for governor there in the state of California. He is Antonio Villaraigosa. Thanks for being back with us. Always nice to see you, sir. I wonder what you make of Governor Newsom there with that message on crime and what he's doing in California now.
Well, crime in California, violent crime particularly, is down to 1960 levels. As I said to you earlier, Blake, when I was mayor, crime went down nearly 50% to 1950 levels. And notwithstanding that, he's trying to make the case by adding state highway patrol officers to cities where they're still grappling with crime issues, that the state can handle this themselves without federalizing the National Guard, without bringing in the Marines. The fact of the matter, and I think Governor Pritzker has said that, 13 of the top 20 cities where crime has gone up are in Republican states.
What do you make of him
federalizing the National Guard there, or bringing in the Marines?
What do you make of him leaning into this? Because the announcement comes, obviously, as there's this national conversation on crime. We also saw here in Washington, for example, the mayor, Muriel Bowser, essentially say that she's thankful and grateful for what the president is doing in this town. So what do you make of the governor making this announcement now?
I think he's making it clear. We don't need to federalize the National Guard. We don't need the federal government to come into California, not when crime rates are down in most places and substantially down. But we still have crime. And so he's adding California Highway Patrol officers to make the case California can handle this on its own.
I'm looking at the governor there. He's going on social media. I showed some of the images, just taunting Trump, or however you want to describe it, taking it to Trump, fighting fire with fire. I don't know, whatever the description is. And then I look at a national poll, and his numbers are climbing among Democrats. Is he having a moment here within your party? What do you think's going on?
Well, I couldn't tell you. I'm not a pundit, but clearly his numbers are going up. We've got to challenge the White House when they're doing things that target California residents, whether it's tariffs, which are taxes and disproportionately hit California because he's going after Mexico, Canada, and China, all three countries that do a lot of business with the state of California. We already seen with school supplies up with double digits because of tariffs. We've seen a lot of things going up. But what I've also said is, let's focus on what we've done. This is a state with the highest gas prices, the second highest utility prices, and the highest home prices. We got to focus on that as well. So obviously he's doing well. Speaking of the governor, with respect to some of the actions he's taken, but I'm going to focus on the challenges that and the problems that we've created here in California.
All right, Antonio Villaraigosa, former mayor there of LA, running for governor in the state of California, with us tonight here on the Hill. Enjoy the weekend. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on your show, Blake.
Of course. All right. So about that polling that I mentioned, while the Vice President, J.D. Vance, of course, has the inside track for the Republican side, looking way out down the line in 2028, it's been quite the opposite on the other side of the aisle, where there's been hardly any movement, at least until now. This is the latest poll from Emerson College, and you see Newsom here right at the top. Start of the summer, he was running at 12%, and he's doubled that number in the very latest poll here. With me now, Chris Steyerwalt, host of The Hill Sunday, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, back with me. What's going on here? Is he having a moment, or is he just in the news every day? What is it?
Just thinking about how Pete Buttigieg will probably still have 16% a year from now.
Okay.
He's got a real 16% ain't nothing, but
right.
but there he is. Look, Gavin Newsom is. I'm now ready to say he's the front runner for the Democratic side.
You are ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you'd have asked me 2 weeks ago, I'd have said it was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez because she has a core constituency. I think she's going to be very hard to beat, and I think that Newsom's support will ebb and flow with how he seems to be doing in being pugnacious with Trump. But I will give him this. People don't care, voters don't care if you're a flip-flopper.
Right.
If you're flipping and flopping in their direction. And Newsom's move to be serious or act serious about crime.
Okay.
This is a smart political instinct.
Yeah.
So what your tendency is to do is when the other side says something, you're weak on crime.
Right.
Is that you say, no, I'm not. Right. And you saw Democrats screw that up in Washington at the very beginning. Actually, there were only 106 murders last year. Blah, blah.
Right.
Wait a minute.
Right.
So what you see Newsom doing with deploying the highway patrol and doing that stuff is a smart political instinct, because instead of pretending like there isn't a problem, he says there is a problem and that I'm doing something about it.
Show me the Cal sheet real quick, because I love the betting markets and how they sort of move and flow and ebb on this. Here's what I noticed. This was really the last month. It's picked up. And
why is everybody so mean to Pete Buttigieg?
No, I don't know. I'm not saying.
He's just always down here, 16, then 9.
But so this is the last.
He grew a beard.
He grew a beard. This is the last 2 weeks.
Right.
And this spike here, I looked at it to the day, Chris, is when he started taunting Trump on social media.
Yeah.
And so it seems like it's working.
Insincerity, cruelty, irony, and archness work in American politics today. It's not great for the Republic, but it is a good way to do it. But I will say, Alexander, this is what other people think will happen. But I will say this, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's support and the potency of a hardcore Democratic Socialist, Zoran Mamdani style candidate will be real. And as Democrats gather and talk about what they're going to do, there's going to be a third of the electorate, at least on the Democratic side.
Wow.
Is it going to be so you had that vote split, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders last time. If AOC has it to herself, she'll be hard to beat.
Interesting. Chris Steyerwalt back with me here on the other side. Thank you, sir. Still to come. Live look at the White House. And think about it. It's kind of like the end of the unofficial end of summer, right?
Yeah, have it. Yeah.
We're there. I don't know what y'all did for your summer. Hope it was a great one. When you think about Donald Trump's, it was pretty consequential whether you love it, hate it, or indifferent. And now the question is, where does he go from here? I'm going to show you what happened, and we'll break it down on the other side.
Ooh. Ooh.
Secret government tests exposed.
Do you think there's been a lie here?
It appears that way.
An alleged cover-up dating back generations.
I lost my 2 older siblings to cancer.
NewsNation Investigates continues. What were they doing in St. Louis? Tonight.
All right, about 148 million Americans, just about half the population, expected to be traveling in one form or another over Labor Day weekend. Taking a live look right now. Looks beautiful all across the country. Marco Island, traffic cam down in Charleston, South Carolina. A look over at LAX right now, and then across the other coast, Coney Island, as millions wind down for the unofficial end to summer. But I wanted to take a look at the summer of Trump. Think about it here for a second. Whether you thought it was good or bad for the president, it was a consequential summer for him. On the very first day of summer, President Trump bombed 3 Iranian nuclear plants in Iran. Less than 2 weeks later, on the 4th of July, the president signed the One Big Beautiful Bill.
There could be no better birthday present for America than the phenomenal victory we achieved just hours ago when Congress passed the One Big Beautiful Bill to make America great again.
And then we got to August, wondered what the president would do with Congress gone. Well, he brought Vladimir Putin onto U.S. soil, trying to end the Russia-Ukraine war. And then, of course, the National Guard presence right here in our nation's capital. All of that, just the last few months as we wrap up summer. Just about full panel here with me now. Niall Stanage, White House columnist for The Hill. Chris Steyerwalt back with me once again. Scott Bolden, NewsNation political contributor. And Lauren Wright, NewsNation political contributor. Hello to you all. Happy Friday evening. Thanks for being with me, Lauren. Go ladies first, start with you. It was obviously consequential, right? I just laid out what happened. Yeah. But I guess the question is, going forward, coming out of this with Congress returning on Tuesday, what do you expect from the president come September?
Well, look, of course, it was a successful summer because Trump implemented his agenda, whether you agree with it or not, which was a great setup, Blake. It's good when you keep campaign promises. It's good when you act decisively. And some of the issues, whether it's on foreign policy or on deploying the National Guard, which I think was the biggest story of the summer, these are some things legal experts argue on whether he's even allowed to do these things, but because he's on the side of public opinion, he's not only getting away with it, he's shaping the news narrative and bringing Democrats into a situation where they have to say, actually, this seems to be going okay. So I would say he's been very successful, and going into the fall, it would be tough not to see some slipping in his numbers or his popularity or some uptick in criticism, because it's been a very good summer for the president.
Scott?
Well, I think my colleague is right. It's been consequential, but I think the real evaluation point has to come after the summer. The big, beautiful bill where you took from the rich and then you increased the deficit and you gave to the corporations and the rich. Those folks off Medicaid and off health care are going to start to feel it eventually. And then look for Congress. Are they going to extend the National Guard in D.C. as the law requires beyond the 30 days or not? I think it's been effective, like the mayor said, because the National Guard aren't patrolling in high crime areas. They're doing other stuff in tourism areas, but they're acting as a backstop, as I understand it from my sources, to allow community policing and more police and others to be on the street, whether the National Guard's carrying guns or not. And so I think the real evaluation is going to come after the summer, not necessarily during the summer.
Now, the president's been here throughout the summer. He hasn't gone to Bedminster. He stayed in Washington. And next week, Congress returns.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, I think there are obviously a lot of challenges coming down the pike as far as Congress is concerned. But really what we're going to see, I think, Blake, is a couple of key questions. One is what happens with the economy. Just today, we saw those core inflation numbers tick up into a kind of semi-dangerous zone. So I think the jury is still out as to how his policies will affect all of that. The other point is just Trump's Trumpiness. Does he go completely crazy? Like, you know, he has been already battering these various enemies of his with very controversial measures. Yes, the MAGA base likes those things, but really a lot of people do not like it at all. And it does speak to the concern that a lot of Americans have about, frankly, strongman or authoritarian tendencies.
To Niall's point, Chris, at the end of the day, is it quote unquote, it's the economy, stupid? And today we got that big news from an appeals court that they ruled that the tariffs are illegal, but you know that this is headed to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, and that could save the Republicans a bunch of seats next year, right? So if the courts strike down these tariffs, that could be a huge boon to Republicans who are going to be looking for relief on the economy. So that's something that could be helpful. But when we look at all the core indicators for Trump, his approval rating stinks, his approval even on crime, on all these core issues, right? So if he had a good summer, it didn't show up, it hasn't shown up here at the end in his numbers. And we'd say his approval rating has flitted down to like 42, 40, low 40s, and with red arrows on his core stuff, on immigration, on crime, on the economy, which were the best suite of issues for him in 2024. He's declined in all of those things. And Lauren is right. You start out, he had won on all this stuff in June, right? Like if you go to May, you say, hey, immigration, economy, people say, looks good. And then, to Scott and Niall's point, he can't help himself. He can't stop. He cannot stop selling, and he keeps going, and it's more, and it's more, and it's more. And there's just a Trump fatigue effect that happens, and the too muchness of all, how did you say it now?
The Trumpiness of Trump.
The Trumpiness of Trump becomes a lot.
Lauren?
No, I agree with that. I mean, you look at the policies and you say, okay, there are some 80-20 issues here, but why is he talking about January 6th? He should never, ever, ever mention it again. He should never mention the 2020 election again. These are not good issues for him. And he's going to the mat on these things where people have forgotten, for better or for worse. I think it's for worse, but it would be really good to shut up about the issues where you're very, very alienating and unpopular, but he can't seem to let go of it. And I guess the positive side of that to people who love him is he doesn't care. He just says what he thinks. But some of the things he says are very divisive.
Niall, since you cover the White House daily, what are you keeping your eye on?
Well, look, obviously the president has a very firm grip on his party, but the midterms in political terms are not that far away. We're already seeing a certain gearing up for that. There's this question about whether both parties might do these rather bizarre mini conventions before the midterm.
I hear Steyerwalt is a major fan of this.
Steyerwalt just loves the trip to peculiar Midwestern cities to have these things.
That's right. No bad idea from the 1970s can ever be retired. This is one of the dumbest things I have ever heard of. The midterm elections are not about party unity for the party out of power. It's just saying that the other side stinks. And the last thing that Republicans need in the summer before the midterms is going to be, hey, have you guys forgotten about Donald Trump? We should talk more. Hey, persuadable voters, we should talk more about it. And the other thing is, Joni Ernst, a bombshell today, all the reporting about her departure. We don't know, I just say with all the redistricting jazz, everything else, we have no idea what the climate's going to look like a year from now, so we can just wait.
You all are my friends. I appreciate all of you as well. Scott, Lauren, Niall, thank you so much. Enjoy your weekend. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Steyerwalt here on the other side of the break with me. It's a Friday night. If you thought Chris's take was unfiltered on the conventions, what about the biggest images and highlights of the week? Get our unfiltered thoughts, other side of the break before we head out. All right, it's a Friday, holiday weekend, by the way. Before we head out, this is the only time of the week Steyerwalt and myself don't know what's coming. We call it Friday Night Unfiltered. Our team picks the best images or I don't know if best is the word, who knows, we'll see. The images of the week. Yeah, hedge our bets. Here's one of them. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, here we
So you got the governor of Illinois underneath the Trump building there. Pritzker versus Trump you think it's a thing or no?
Well, he'd like it to be.
He wants it to be a thing.
Because Gavin Newsom is making a thing out of it.
Yeah.
And Trump insulted his Wade, and now he wants in on the moths to the flame.
Right.
But you know what happens to most of the moths at the porch light is they get all zapped.
Next image, video, whatever we got coming. What is this?
Oh dear.
Do you know what this is?
That's the giant face of Donald Trump.
That is that, but they hung it over the Labor Department.
Yes.
So this is actually, I don't know, like what is it, like a 6-iron from our building here, and that's outside the Labor Department there right now.
Yeah, the idolatry, I think, is the term that we're looking for here, and taxpayers are paying for giant pictures of the faces of the people who work for them. You know something is going on. You know something is up.
What do we got next before we head on out?
Oh my gosh.
Do you when you saw this, what did you actually think?
I thought that when Zoran Mamdani did this, he didn't understand. I don't think this will be that consequential in the race, right? I don't think Eric Adams called him Mom Scrawny.
Right.
Eric Adams is at a scrawny like 5% and getting his clock cleaned by Curtis Sliwa.
Right.
So I don't think it makes that difference.
Okay.
But I will say this. When he was in March among Democrats, nobody cared if he had a bad day. Now the press is watching you constantly.
Best Sunday show in the business is 10 a.m. Sunday morning. Linda McMahon.
It's a special on election because it's special on education because we're going back to school, and it's good. You should watch.
Chris Stirewalt, thank you, sir. I'm Blake Berman. Hope you have a great weekend. Elizabeth Vargas starts right now.